coming up?
So just to rehearse or repeat the idea that Avalon is an island. So it's separate from the so-called mainland, and that has a mythological and spiritual purpose. Only that has significance. So apart from that, most of the time that island is concealed to the senses, so you can't see it, let alone access it by any way, by any means. So the mists are also a mythological theme, also in Kabbalah, or air, for the concealment of something that should be hidden, like a veil.
Hello, Synchronauts. How are you? Welcome to another Elysian Roundtable episode. My name is Aida from Mexxicamelot. It's July the 1st already. Oh my God. Welcome, dear Mike. How are you? Mike Bais from Circle of Avalon.
You recognize me, yes, indeed.
I can see your name down there, so it's easy not to get.
Yeah. That's the reason why. Yeah, no, I'm very good, thank you. Happy to be here again. So let's do something beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, Synchronauts, let me tell you, we have been a bit quiet because Mike has been on tour with his book, which we will talk about in a moment.
Yes.
So very active, and you'll tell us a little bit more about your adventures. So that's why we took a little bit of time to come back, but here we are. And believe it or not, we're still talking about Avalon. Why? Why so many programs about Avalon? Well, it's a complex topic in a way, no? So we need to take our time to understand the different layers and levels from Avalon. And so this is the 5th program that we're going to be talking about it, like sharing the perspective from the Kabbalah and the Tree of Life, but also like the mythology. So, yes, it's going to be interesting to continue. Last time we were talking about Merlin and Morgana Le Fay, so it was also very interesting to talk about those two. And just tell us, what's up with your book? Because it's been how many months already that it has been out there?
Since February. So yeah, it goes quick. Yeah, and it's doing quite okay, I think. I mean, I can't keep track of all the selling because it's of course everywhere online. And what I sell personally is probably a fragment of everything. But it is there, it's out in the world, it's available, and it's being received well by the ones who read it. It's very accessible, they say, and very clear. And one of the most important things is that it is being hands-on, so you can really apply it at the same time. There's a procedure in it, as you know, about doing a Kabbalistic invocation and start a session. If you're alone, you can even do it, or with a few people online or in a group. So it's quite instructive, I would say, and yeah, until now it's being received very well. So I'm happy with that. And indeed, like you said, I've been touring around a little bit, mostly also in the UK the last couple of months, and was worthwhile in London at certain bookshops like Watkins and Atlantis, in Glastonbury, with some friends there in the Library of Avalon, and yeah, promoting it elsewhere. So it was, I had a great time.
Definitely. I can tell, like, you were posting a lot of your adventures on your Facebook, which we will talk about at the end, so that people can get in touch with you, or they can know a little bit more about your work, and you, because you share like little droplets of wisdom here and there regarding Kabbalah and Avalon, and also the ASA, which is one of your projects. And what I love about the book, and I know I repeat myself a lot, but I'm sorry, like, I am the wind in the Galactic Mayan, and we like to communicate what we like. And what I really appreciate about this book, all of your books really, but this is more evident, that part of the practice, because sometimes we might think, yeah, maybe I need to do yoga, or maybe I need to meditate for an hour, sit down, and that's when I'm going to be able to connect with spirit. But the practices that you share with us, and they're very much in tune also with what you learned from your teacher Halevi, because the style is very similar. For those of us who know a little bit about Halevi, it's so practical and so easy. And sometimes it's just as easy as just sit down and connect with your breath and connect with your here and now, and just connect with the tree of life, or depending on what you want to do. Yeah. So I really appreciate that about the book. So definitely a great book for beginners who have no idea about Kabbalah, and also for those who are more seasoned and they know more about Kabbalah, still they can find interesting bits that can be very useful for their practices. And as you said, no, where can we find the book? Directly with Watkins, and I have here the link if you want to buy it synchronized, or you can order it through Amazon, Barnes and Noble. Like I've also seen, like in Asia, there are some bookstores that carry it, for example. It's all over the world. And hopefully at some point it will also be translated to other languages, because it's really, really a good book. And people are in need of this kind of practical information for the 21st century. So, yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much. Yeah. And let's not forget and mention that you also supported me in directing the text and editing some of the material before even Watkins themselves edited the book. So you did a great job there. So thank you again.
Thank you. No, thank you for allowing me to serve the tradition. This is why we're doing what we're doing here in Mexxicamelot, opening these spaces to communicate the work that we're doing behind the scenes, because I found that this is knowledge that is very needed with the current state of affairs, and people are really looking for answers. So because I've benefited so much from it, of course, I want to share with the world. And also, I'm also very excited to share that we're also translating your other books. Like we're in the last proofreading stage for your book, Kabbalah and Science, Part 1, to Spanish. So hopefully we'll bring you to the Americas sometime in the near future. And then you can come on tour and bring your books in English, and then also have the one in Spanish. And there's much work to be done. So I'm very happy that we get to do this. And so Synchronauts, if you're watching us, let us know. Have you bought Mike's books? What do you think about it? What do you think about our programs as well? Like, I know that you are watching, but you're very quiet, and we want to know about you. How are you feeling about the materials and the contents we are sharing? My channel is very interesting because I post both in English and Spanish. So I know that some people come here to see the English content, others the Spanish ones. But you know what? You can use this also to learn a new language. So learn a new metaphysical language. Yeah. So I'm very happy to be of assistance, and I'm having a blast. Like, this is a great adventure, and I'm happy to share with the world as well. So thank you, dear Mike, for also opening up for this space that we're working through. And speaking of, well, obviously, my area of expertise is Kabbalah, Avalon, and also the ASA, which at some point we should talk about it in another program, no? The Apostolic Session of Arimathea. Like, everything is connected, no? And it's really adorable, because we were talking about this a couple of days ago, how the original reason why I contacted you is because I wanted to talk about precisely the mythology from Avalon and the Arthurian, and we have done anything but. We have worked with Kabbalah, we have worked with Joseph of Arimathea's path, but now we're opening up a space to talk about Avalon here in our Elysian table.
We do.
So, yeah, I also want to share, because my area of expertise is a bit different. In my case, I work with the Galactic Mayan, and I'm learning about astrology. So that's kind of like another thing that complements very well what I've been studying with you. And so we're going to begin the new Galactic Mayan year on July the 26th. And each year has a different kind of frequency or vibration. And for this year, the kin, or the energy, the solar seal, is a blue rhythmic storm. So we have 20 archetypes, which are like masculine, the solar energy, and we have 13 tones of creation that has to do with the feminine. So it's like a coming together of the masculine and the feminine. And so in this case, the year that is coming, and I have here in Mexxicamelot's channel, you can check out, I think I did post the last one or maybe the last 2 years, everything that I've been talking about. I'm barely beginning to do it in English. I was doing it in Spanish for many years. But now, because I'm connecting with people from other places who want to learn about it, speaking in English, I'm beginning to open up those spaces as well. So what this energy that is coming will be balancing, because the rhythmic tone has to do with balancing. And the storm talks about transformation, like what kind of storm. And right now, as we're recording this, at least in the Americas, we have a lot of rain, thank God, after very, very difficult months of a lot of heat, and there was no water coming in. Now we are having the water, and we're all happy. Like, we don't care that we're getting flooded, like, bring the rain. We're happy to receive it. And I think that's the energy of the coming year, the storm coming in. So we can leave the energy of the storm either as it's going to be bringing back life, renewing nature, or it's going to be like a hurricane, just cleaning it up everywhere, like, because sometimes that energy is needed. So it's going to be a very profoundly transformative year, and that's why I called it balancing the most profound transformation. So what I do is I talk to you about the fractality of the 13 moons of 28 days during that solar ring for the year, beginning on July the 26th. And I give you like an idea of what to expect in each moon every 28 days. But also, like, in general, what does the year look like? So I'm going to be talking about it on Saturday, July the 20th, 10 a.m. Mexico City time. So you can sign up now for that. It's going to be, we're going to have a Zoom meeting. I'm asking for a donation of $15 or 15 euros to access that. And then you will have access to the recording as well. If you can't make it at that time, because obviously, because I have people from different time zones, we work together with this knowledge. And I have people in Asia, there's people in Eastern Europe, there's people in Africa even. We're doing this work together. And so sometimes it's very hard for everybody to be able to come together at the same time. So wherever you are, if you're interested and you can't make it to the actual online meeting, you will have an access to the recording. So if you want, just leave me a comment here, or you can send me an email to Mexxicamelot with double X at gmail.com, and then I will get back to you as how you can access that information. And it's really interesting to see how the energetic phases are coming along with that. And you might ask me, Aida, what is the Lady of the Lake doing there? Why did you put her there? Well, in the wave spell, which is like a measurement of 13 different steps for the year, she's going to be present in this year. So I'm going to also be talking about how her archetype is connected to what's coming for the next spin. It's going to be, yes, a challenging year, very, very, very profoundly transformative. But the next year, it will be a yellow resonance seed. So we're preparing the field, to bring in the seeds for the next cycle. So it's gonna be, we have to like dig in the earth, and we have to bring in, like the compost, which stinks, no? And it's like, ugh, it reeks, but it has a lot of nutrients. So what we have to do is prepare the earth for what's coming in a year, like from the year 2025 to 2026. So you're all welcome to join, and we would love to have you there. And so those are some of the activities we're having. And now, without further ado, let's begin. After the parish announcements, as we call it here in Mexico, anuncios parroquiales, the parish announcements. Let's move on to what attains us, which is talking about Avalon. So let me know, do you want to begin with this image, dear Mike? Is that okay?
Yes, of course. Why not? We will be going back and forth a little bit to the Tree of Life, because our program is always connected to Kabbalah and the Tree of Life. Exactly. Just to rehearse or repeat the idea that Avalon is an island. So it's separate from the so-called mainland, and that has a mythological and spiritual purpose. Only that has significance. So apart from that, most of the time that island is concealed to the senses. So you can't see it, let alone access it by any way, by any means. So the mists are also a mythological theme, also in Kabbalah, or air, for the concealment of something that should be hidden, like a veil. Something is, taken apart, set apart, or consecrated from the normal sensory world. Now, the sensory world is, in Kabbalistic terms, the lower part of the tree of life. That's the natural world with natural senses. And then the higher part of the tree, the upper phase, as they call it, we talked about this before, that's the super sensual part, or the transpersonal part of the tree. And there's an interface. Yeah, you pointed out these. So you have the lower phase.
So I'm going to try to draw a little bit of a...
Yeah, you can do that always. I know.
Can you please explain to us so that I can put the circle in the correct... Which of the
lower phase? Yeah, the lower phase is from Malchut to Hod.
Okay, so this would be
Malchut to Hod, and that's it. Keep it there.
We're doing this.
Okay, yeah, that's also good. So from Malchut to Hod to Tiferet to Netzach and back to Malchut. That kite shape, that is called the lower phase, or the lower garden of the tree of life. That's the natural world, with the body, the senses, the average day-to-day personality in Yesod, the purple circle there, or Sephira. And exactly. That's the sensory world. That's the mainland, so to speak. That's the place where we live in. So you see it on a tree, but it represents the day today, a common world that we live in, with your participation within it on a personal level.
Yeah.
And very, very necessary, because especially the Western esoteric tradition and Kabbalah and the Round Table mythology use the sensory natural world to act out spiritual ideas, metaphysical wisdom. So this is the place where to do it. But if you have only knowledge of the sensory world and not of the spirit, this remains just a personal and sensory world, a biological, physiological one. So we have to outgrow that world, and at the same time keep being present within it, because we are going to transform our consciousness within this world. And that can only happen through something that we talked about in other programs, through the development of the tree to the soul level, which is the triad of Tiferet, Gevura, and Chesed.
Okay. I'm going to change the color. Let's do it blue. I know it's getting lost. Let me try another color. Maybe, much better. Okay. So this is the next level.
That's it. That's the interface. That's the soul level. And when we talk about soul, because that is quite a huge topic in Kabbalah anyway, but here we are talking about the Ruach, which is the receptive part of the soul, in the sense of, to the below, it is awake, and it becomes self-conscious, so it becomes the observer of the lower part of the tree we just talked about, and it is receptive to the upper part of the tree, or the transpersonal part, and that is the upper phase, which is Tiferet, Bina, Keter, Chokmah, and back to Tiferet.
So it would be like this.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it.
The kite. Okay.
The kite shape again.
I have an idea. Maybe this will work. Let me try. Because I'm having fun with it. With the Zoom.
I can see that.
Thingies. Yeah.
Well.
I'm trying. So Okay, kind of like this, but not quite.
Yeah. It's like
we're getting there. Like the kite.
It is, yeah.
Okay, not quite there. Ah, much better. Here we go. Yes,
Yep.
there it is.
Wonderful. So back to that picture, at least in the mind, of the Isle of Avalon. The upper part of the tree, the transpersonal part, somewhere over there, we find the Isle of Avalon. And well, it's a bit open to discussion, Kabbalistically, where you could put Avalon. But often the center of this upper kite shape, the upper transpersonal part of the tree, Da'at, is often seen as the place you go through, like an abyss, or a place where your normal senses are useless. And you have to navigate on something extraordinary. Like, I know one of your favorite stories is like Luke Skywalker, who's been instructed to practice on instinct with his lightsaber. Exactly. Yeah. And use the Force, but not through the reliance on the sensory world, but on something bigger than that. So you have to go past that. So often it's being described as a bridge or something that's being concealed. You have to go through a mist or climb a mountain. And in this particular myth, it's going over a lake, water. That's also a hint to the psychological world. So here we're talking about the Yezeretic world, psychological tree within Kabbalah. And these are the deeper waters where we are going through. And to go from one place to another, you need guidance. You can't do that alone as a person. Yeah.
That's correct.
So first of all, one of the conditions, your soul has to be awake and receptive and willing to make the journey to the other side. And of course, like we have in Kabbalah, the idea of the Magid, the inner teacher, sometimes represented by Merlin, but it could also be Morgan Le Fay, or any other character for that matter. It's not fixated in an archetype. That is the journey from Tiferet and the soul triad up through the transpersonal triad there, the transpersonal part of the tree. Yeah, exactly. Now, Da'at is called knowledge, or some people would like to call it gnosis. And that's exactly what the Isle of Avalon represents. It's higher spiritual, metaphysical knowledge, not knowledge directly of this world, because this is the natural biological world.
Yeah.
But intrinsically within this world, there you find this domain or this world. And that's, I think, one of the beautiful things, the tree, when we use the myth and we overlay it on the tree, is we can find Avalon at that particular spot there. And it's not just a static point or a static island, it's a process that we go through.
Oh, yes. Yeah, definitely. I would like to add something, if I may.
Sure.
This is very interesting because obviously when we talked about this in the last program or the last two programs, I'm not very sure, but we were saying, like, why is the mythology of Avalon so appealing, or the Arthuria, to people like me who live in different countries? And we said that's because these are universal archetypes that take different shape and form, but in essence they're the same. So, and you and me have talked on our own about that a lot, because going through that sphere also represents like going through the dark night of the soul, which is a necessary step before your soul is ready to go on the quest. You have to die to everything you thought you knew. And that's also what happened to Luke Skywalker when he comes back to his uncle and aunt's farm and they're dead and there's nothing left there for him. Like, he has to die to the old Luke. So he can go into his adventure. And talking about the archetypal energies related to that void, or to that the emptiness, or the place where, and we did, I think we at some point we showed also that image of this night, no, going through 2 different spaces, and there you can see like there is this space between the earth, no, and he's floating on top of that in the abyss. That's it. So
yeah,
what is connected to the abyss? In this case, it has to do also with the unconscious or the subconscious mind. It has to do with the waters, again, which is, you can find it in two senses here on Avalon. First, the water that is surrounding the island of Avalon, but also the water that is being present there as the mists, no? So again, there is, if we go to astrology, we have this symbology of Neptune. Neptune is going to put everything, like it's gonna cover it up for you, no? It's going to like, so that you will have to go through the abyss, you have to go through the mists, you have to go through your emotions, through the water, to reach that sacred place. And in Mayan mythology, there is the same principle of the cave, going into the cave, which is, they're called cenotes. So I don't know, Synchronauts, if you've ever had a chance to visit one, they are really magical places. If you ever come to Mexico and you go down to the Mayan Riviera, that is something that you should definitely experience. Sadly now, because there's a lot of people coming in and everything is very touristy, not like it was a few years ago. I remember the first time that I swam in a cenote was in 2010, and there was only my aunt Julie and me swimming alone for a while. So it was really magical, because you have this like underground well, because that's what they are. There is a cave, and you go in and it's dark, and you go in there swimming, and you can see there's fish around swimming with you. And it's like coming back into the womb, going into the cave, going into that dark space. And the cenotes were very, very important for the Mayans, because they would make sacrifices. That represents also the underworld. And it has a Plutonian energy to it. So this represents that passage we go through before we are born, because that's where we're at, in our mother's wombs, like surrounded by water, no, getting ready to be born into the light. And then when you go through your dark nights of the soul, you have to go through that process again. It's going back to that metaphorical womb, I'm sorry, not the one, the metaphorical womb, so that you will die to the old you and then become something new. And I think that the idea of Avalon is precisely that, like, you have to die to the 3D world, or maybe we could, if we could come back to the tree, like you have to leave behind the lower phase, start connecting to the heart, and then you can go up. But in order to get there, you need to go through that initiation of moving through the waters, and things will be confusing because that's Neptune, that's the mists.
Yeah.
And you can get lost.
Yeah.
And you cannot do it on your own. You need some sort of guidance. So, and also we have this project, you and me, based on what I went through in my dark night of the soul, to help people who are going precisely through that. We're moving from our yesod, no, from the known. We're trying to move forward, but then we have to go through this, facing the mists. How do we do that? No, in terms of Kabbalah, how do we do that in terms of the roundtable myths? And we want to work with that as well. I just want to mention it because it's like,
no, it's a very good question. And from that soul triad and our self-consciousness, there's also the access, we talked about this before, of free will. So you start to discover within yourself, you have real choice. And that means that you somehow have elevated above the compulsory and instinctive level of the natural world, where you really don't have any free will. Everything is being decided and determined for you by impulse and instinct or what have you. So, but on the soul level, you have choice. And then you cannot just apply it to the lower phase, but you can also say, I apply my will in the sense that I wish to go up the tree, or maybe even serve something or do something different with my life than just, going into that whole vegetable circle of conditionings again and again. I want to do something else. And that can open up a dimension or world above you. And that's the path from Tiferet upwards. That's the path of awe and reference to the mystery.
Yeah.
And that's the first impulse to go towards what is being called in this mythology, Avalon. And that can be a stripping off your identity or all kinds of ideas that you thought that you were or that your life was about. That's why it can also be a terrifying journey, and you can get lost.
Yeah. Oh yes, you will get lost. That's
to,
part of life.
Yeah. It's a bit of a contrast, because the path upwards is like this, but downwards, from the source downwards, that's the path of grace. So everything that you experience on that path towards Avalon, that can be of awe, but also can be of terror.
Oh yes.
But if we learn to understand that both of these things are coming from the same source, that is grace, then we can resist the terror on the journey and the despair even, and say, everything that's coming to me is providential and wants to teach me or test me or my integrity. If I know this, I will persist and I will get there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what happened to me, because you are very present in my dark night of the soul. And now I understand, because these are moments that we have to go through as humans, because we're growing and we're changing and we're expanding. And when your soul starts looking for answers, and you start questioning, like, am I only here to be working my ass off and just like going to work and then coming back home, and then there's no adventure there? Like, I'm only here like a money making machine, and that's it. And then you start questioning, like, is this really who I am or what I want to do with my life? And you start on your spiritual quest. But then in the process, you are being asked to die to what you think you should be, to die to the expectations. And this has to do obviously with the lower phase, the expectations of your family, called society, and also letting go of, like this mask that because we create masks. So let go of the masks of what you think you should be or who you think you should be, to allow the real you, moving on from this upwards to your heart, to your son, to your inner son.
That's it.
Your king, the sovereign part of you. But in order to be able to do that, you have to die to what you thought you were. And problem is that when you're in the middle of that, and I know it very well because I'm just coming out of it, there's a point when you're like, why am I even alive? What is the point of me here? It hurts. I don't want to know anything. It hurts physically, emotionally, psychologically. Like it really hurts.
Yeah, it
Because
does.
it's like you're shedding a skin. You're changing your skin, and it's a painful process. And many people, they feel when they're going through a dark night of the soul or a depression, they think that they are being asked to physically die, and they just give up. And what I learned through that, because I had your assistance and there were people around, like I have a good tribe around me, very few people, but they're there for me. And I hung on to dear life thanks to you and these other people around me who love me so much. I hung on to my tribe for dear life. And I kept showing up, and I just lingered, and I barely made it because I was like, this doesn't make sense to me anymore. But I understood, like, I'm just being, like, after I was out of it, obviously, not during, because I'm in the mist, or you're in the mist when you're having the dark night of the soul. But then when the mist started going away, when I really surrendered, and that's what's being asked of us, to go into Avalon, like surrender the control, surrender that you need to have answer. Surrender to this persona you're supposed to be. And when you do that, surrender, then you understand what I was really being asked to do was to die to what I thought I was supposed to be. And so I can be reborn to my authentic self. And then I be easier to go up the tree. No? And so that's why I want to co-write this book with you, so that people who are going through this moment, this dark night of the soul, that they will understand this too shall pass. You will see it. Just hang on for your life. Be open, surrender, and just let your old self die. And then you'll come out the other, like on the other side, renovated. And it doesn't mean that you need to physically die. You need to die psychologically. That's what is asked of you. So that that divine spark that we are can start shining through. And then things start to like magically move and flow. You start co-creating and magnetizing. And it's really interesting. And nobody's teaching this to us, Mike. Nobody's talking about this, and we have to talk about it.
It's a shame, but it's really also just alone in the Western esoteric tradition. It's everywhere. It's in the Eleusinian mysteries of Greece. It's in the Egyptian rites. It's in the Celtic rites, the Celtic Book of the Dead, in Kabbalah. So it's all over the place. Probably it's more like that it's a problem in interpretation. And I would like to emphasize that rightfully, as you said, it's a psychological death. It doesn't mean that you become a completely different person, but mainly that what dies is the idea or the identification with your ego or with the body. So the whole lower face, the physical body, that part of the psyche, it can all remain, in a sense, as it were. You don't have to change completely, but the transformation is of a subtle kind of the perception and the awareness of who you think that you were and are. And what awakens is a spiritual dimension, the upper face of the tree. And there you find a reorientation of reality. And then this can remain as it was. And you and I, you remain Ida, and me, I remain Mike, and we can just, make different or little shifts in our life to rebalance ourselves out of the tree. But it doesn't mean that you need to become a completely different person. I just want to emphasize that, because that's very important.
Yeah. What I'm trying also to convey is that just you have to die to the expectations of others and even your own self as to what you should, because there's so many people that go into depression because, they say, okay, I would rather do this with my life. No, I would rather, like, for example, maybe I am, I don't know, a policeman or a lawyer because that's what, or a doctor because that's what my family wanted, but I want to be a chef.
Yeah.
And it's
exactly
you.
Right.
It's you.
Yeah.
And so
that's very important. And
so,
that the word expectations as well. Oh, sorry, it was interrupted.
No, it's okay. No, go ahead.
No, I just want to say what popped into my mind was in one of those passages about the Gospel of Thomas, make a little sidestep here, when he asks Yeshua, when does the kingdom of heaven arrive? And he says, it doesn't arrive by expectations. So even spiritual expectations do not help us at all.
I know. No.
But just the openness and to being in awe, and let heaven unfold itself, let Avalon unfold itself on its own terms, and open up to what is coming towards you. And that's the, as it were, the attitude, the inner attitude, when in meditation or through stories, you try to approach Avalon, let it unfold on its own terms. And that's only at that moment the mists will clear. Exactly. As soon as we are closed inside, the mist will be closed. It's like a mirror image. Yes. So the veil is like a border or a threshold, and it will open up to us. But it is, again, a reflection of our inner psychological state.
Exactly. Yeah, because now you're seeing who you are in your authentic self. Like, it doesn't mean, as you say, you don't have to change like everything, or you don't have to change many things about yourself, but the way you move into the world is different. The way you relate to your own soul and to your own psyche is of a
Yeah.
different order. And naturally, things start to change around you. Like, it has to be,
Oh, yeah.
because you're
Yeah.
changing. So it's
Yeah.
not that you have to completely die to what you were, but just
Mm.
allow that light in you to really come through. And then you can go up the tree because you're walking in your authentic self, and magic
Yes.
begins to happen. I mean, that's been my experience right now. Like, the level of synchronicity and magic that I've been experiencing in the past month and some days after the mist parted for me, I'm just like,
Yes.
wow, like, this is real. Like, this is not only
Yeah.
mythology. These are not stories they're telling us just because. These are guidelines, and it can
Mm.
happen. But
Yeah.
if you don't open yourself to it, then you're going to miss it.
Exactly. Now, just another little thing that I want to, well, it's not really little, but
Okay, go ahead.
an aspect, an aspect of the art and the whole abyss thing there on the tree
Yeah.
is the art is also being associated with the Ruach HaKadosh, which is
Ah.
the Holy Spirit in Kabbalah.
Mm.
So, first of all, the mythological and symbolic idea that
Mhm.
when you go up the tree through that straight path from Tiferet to Keter, you have an experience, you may have an experience of the Ruach HaKadosh, which may come to you as inspiration, as
Mm.
renewal or
Yeah.
rejuvenation, but
Mhm.
also, like literally, Ruach means wind, as
Ah.
wind or something that comes your way, like a
Mm.
storm even.
Yeah.
So the path along the lake, if you like, towards Avalon, may also be stormy and windy,
Oh, yes.
and that is again symbolically an idea that comes from Kabbalah at the Ruach HaKadosh. It's
Mm.
subtle and it can be also overwhelming at the same time.
Oh, yes.
And the Ruach HaKadosh is feminine, so
Mm.
she comes down uh, actually into existence, and she invigorates and animates everything. And why am
Mm.
I
Like the
saying
real.
that with emphasis on the she? Because
Uh-huh.
Avalon is the island of the goddess
Mhm.
and the priestess.
Yeah.
So it's very feminine, not
Nature. Definitely.
female, but it is feminine in archetypal sense.
Mhm.
So it is nurturing, like
Yeah.
the eventually the king who in this story, King Arthur, who establishes the spiritual kingdom on earth at the
Mhm.
soul level.
Mm.
There is a time when that job has been done for a certain amount of time, and then somehow always the wound returns to the king, and it happens in the story. And the king returns to its place of origination, which is Avalon, and there he will be taken care of by Morgana and the 9 sisters of Avalon, and they
Mhm.
will nurture him and make sure that he is ready when he is being called.
Is it okay if we move from this image, because we do have an
Good
image
idea. Yeah.
about. I'm just gonna move through because, well, we were going to go through other images. We don't care. Like, we're just flowing. We're just going with the flow. This is what
Yeah.
you're
No,
talking
no,
about,
it's
no? Like, art,
exactly that. A
l'amour de la
beautiful image.
couleur.
It is. Yeah.
Mm.
So there we have Arthur after the battle, probably at Camlan, which is also a geographical place in Albion, or we now call England,
Mm.
and fighting his, well, not a nice thing to say, but his bastard son Mordred, and who he had begotten with his half
Half
sister
sister.
Morgane. Yeah,
Mm.
and there are some variations in certain stories, but this is what we see most of the time. And
Mhm.
so that is has become a problem. And Mordred can be seen as the, like say, the worldly king who wishes to occupy the position of the spiritual king who wishes to establish a spiritual king. And so it's not his place to take over. But often the earthly king can't see it. It's the difference between inheritance of kingship by a bloodline or through the initiation of the higher worlds. And let me emphasize for all the listeners and viewers that kingship is something that can be occupied by a man or a woman. That's a place of Tiferet where you start to reorientate and redirect your life and consciously establish a sacred kingdom, a kingdom of heaven, like Christ says, on the face of the earth. And it doesn't need to be a physical building or even a space. It can be a subtle space within yourself to begin with, or it can grow out to a temple or a school of the soul. But first of all, it's a subtle space within you. And there you harbor your spiritual knowledge and also how to enact it out within the world. That's going to be your quest. But there's a coming and a going of the king. And it happens sometimes by initiation. People know this early in life, that I have something to do here on the face of this earth. And then the king as an archetype arises within your consciousness. And there's also a time when the king has to go, at least for the time being, at physical death. But maybe before that time already, you have to depart from it and say, I will return again. It's just a kind of Kabbalistic knowledge, and in the tradition you have this messianic idea, the time of the Mashiach. And there are many concepts about this, but there is a kind of a thing here about the king who returns when it's necessary.
Yes.
The anointed one, the one who has been awakened by the higher worlds. It's been inspired by the Holy Spirit, by Avalon, and becomes knowledgeable about its fate and destiny.
And we have talked about this in previous recordings, that because the state of affairs being what they are, and there's this prophecy that Arthur will return, just like the promise of Jesus returning, and so many other great teachers and characters. Like, and we are like, when is Arthur coming back? We did have this conversation, like, when is he coming back to make things right? But the thing is, it's not that Arthur is coming back himself, but rather the archetype of Arthur should be awakened in each and every one of us, bring us to our sovereignty and our light, so that then we can create this Camelot, or this space, this heaven on earth down here. So it's not like we're waiting for the one to come back, but we're waiting for the one within to be activated. And imagine if everybody would light up their own inner king or queen, if some people say, I'm not a king. Okay, king or queen, however you want to call it. Imagine we'll activate that. And there's this ripple going through, also like what Rupert Sheldrake talks about, the morphogenetic change happening. Like, if there's enough of us doing that, then things will start changing. And I do know, I've noticed, after the very dark years we've had to go through as a globalized community, with everything that went on from 2020 up until even last year, even this year, like, we are being asked to say, what if I do things in a different way? And then people are starting to notice the level of manipulation, or how we have this dream spell, as we call it in the Galactic Mayan, no? Like this consensual reality that we have to agree upon, so that it will be true. And this is a spell in the dark sense of the world that's happening, but we can change it into a positive spell, because the word spell can be applied both to good magic or not so good magic. So what
exactly. Yeah.
What if we allow the inner king to shine through, and then that's when Arthur will come back, not really as the one person, but as a collective.
That's it. It can be Aragorn from the Lord of the Rings,
Yes.
you know, fighting the zombie-like armies of Sauron, you know, the orcs, or so many different stories about it. And of course, in the Arthur story as well, the minions of the Dark Lords in the Arthurian mythos and the poetry are exactly the same themes. And like you said, the second coming of Christ, the second coming of the King of Arthur, is an internal affair. I often say, as a priest and bishop, you know, we don't need a second coming of Jesus. You know, once is more than enough. The whole drama. If you don't get the message by now, you will not get it at a literal second coming of Jesus. You will not get it. And it was not the instruction anyway.
No.
And the same with this myth. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing.
Shift.
Because what's happening in organized religion, what they tell you is, oh, you need a savior to do this. And I'm the path to that savior. And that's where you're being manipulated and you're being held on like a prisoner into this gilded cage.
Yeah.
But that's not what Jesus said at all.
By the way. Yeah, no, exactly.
And it's very convenient for those groups.
Well, if you look at the scriptures, whether these be the canonical gospels or the apocryphal gospels, Jesus never refers himself as a savior, but the bringer of the good news and how to become unto the Father, or to meet the transcendent, in other words. But a savior or a Messiah, he never really confirms that he is.
No, he's just like, you're saying,
put upon him.
Not me. It's your words, not mine. No. But he also says, like, these things and greater things that I'm doing, you will do. He's like putting the responsibility on us. It's not like, oh, you need to come through me to be saved. He never said that. Never.
Exactly. And the same with the Round Table, Ida. I mean, Arthur never said, I'm going to save you. No, he said, you know, go out on your quest. Yeah, exactly. And find the grail, find the spirit or the Christ within you. And there it will happen. But it can only happen when you go on your particular individual way. Exactly. So it's the same instruction, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that makes it very challenging on the one hand, because we can't really go the whole way with someone else. No. We can have companions, very important, but it's your life and my life, everyone's life. That is the quest.
Yeah.
And we have to do it with that. Yeah. And like I said to a good friend of mine today, just to finish.
No, go ahead, please.
Is that our challenges, everything that comes our way, our blessings, our challenges, is tailor-made. It's being presented to us on a tray. If we dare to see it that way, that everything is beyond coincidence. And we know that this is exactly, like I always say, it's providential.
Definitely.
Everything is, you're being helped and guided. Yeah.
Exactly. But if you're operating from the lower face of the tree, which we talked about earlier, it's so easy to say, I'm not responsible. Like, and the Catholics, they do that a lot. And I was born and raised as a Catholic, so I can talk about it. Like, don't come at me like, oh, no. I know, because I was raised as a Mexican Catholic, which is another level of Catholic. So let me tell you.
Different ball game.
Like, you're like, I know. I drank all of the tequila because the devil tempted me. I'm innocent. No? Yeah. Or like, I will just go to church and I will do like, golpes de pecho, we call it in Spanish. No, I'm just gonna do this to my chest and say, oh yes, it's my fault and everything is so wrong. And then I will be forgiven because it's not my responsibility. Jesus will come and save me. No, I just can do whatever I want. And then I get out of the church after preaching that, no, I will be good and I will be obedient to the laws of God. But the minute you're out, like, hi, did you see? Start gossiping. Did you see how she was dressing? Oh my God. And So where's the congruence? There is no congruence because they're teaching you, don't worry, no, we will save you. Like, come to church, give us your money, and we'll give you like this special blessing, and you have your ticket to heaven. Don't worry. No, it's very easy.
No,
and
nothing of that in the myth.
Of course, like, where is the responsibility of your own self? That's why I personally, I don't abide by these teachings. And I don't say like, because they say, oh, Jesus died in the cross for you, for your sins. And I'm like, no, no, no. I don't agree with that, because I have to be responsible for my own karma, call it that way, for like the reactions to my actions. I cannot be putting that on Jesus or anybody else, be Christ or Buddha or King Arthur. We can't do that, because if not, then the cycle of being in the faith
exactly
perpetuates itself.
No, exactly. The king has, mythologically, any king of this level, whether it be Heshba or King Arthur, or, like I said, Aragorn, has a sacrificial duty. In other ways, it shows the people that, what we talked about before here, that to undo yourself of an old identity and to rise above the average level and to become a king unto the spirit world. And that means to bring down heaven and to apply it, that inspiration and that knowledge to the world of today. And that is the example and the responsibility, like you said. That's what we all need to do, to invert to the Teshuvah way in Kabbalah, and or the Greek said metanoia, to change, to invert your mind and to think differently, to respond differently to life. And that's beautifully being done in most of the Grail poetry. Is, for example, when one of the knights, like Lancelot or Percival, would defeat an enemy, most of the time you'll never find them being killed, but they are being sent to Camelot to serve the king. That means to invert your ideas to a different ideology, a different mindset.
A retraining.
Exactly, yeah.
Wow. Wow. Well, I think that we should start wrapping up. I don't know. Will we continue with this topic? Because obviously, again, and I love our conversations because we never know what's going to happen, but it's perfect. We have still some other images to go through. So do we continue with the myth of Avalon in our next meeting, or what do you think, dear Mike?
Well, there's so much to say, so it's really endless. Is it a good idea? You said at the beginning of the program that we have viewers, but they're very quiet. Maybe some of the people can advise us about it and say, we heard enough about it, or no, go on, it's so interesting. So give us a shout. Is that a good idea?
I think that's a great idea. I mean, if you ask me, I think one more program would be perfect. But yes, let's hear from the Synchronauts. Let's hear from people who are watching us worldwide all over the world, what they think. But this is a fascinating topic because it has so many different layers and points of view. And it's very practical as well for our modern times.
Very much.
All right, so can you tell us, dear Mike, how can people get in touch with you if they have any questions or if they want to know about your courses? Oh, because I also forgot, you're going to have a retreat in Austria later this year. Can you tell us a little bit more?
Yes, exactly. Well, start with your first question. If you want to have a look on my website, that's going to be a Circle of Avalon, one word, .nl, which is all in English, or KabbalahMysticalSchool.com. Two websites, you can find everything. You can also find my email address. So feel free to email me, or you look on some of my social media. Most is Facebook. You can find me under my own name, Mike Bais, or Circle of Avalon. And on it are some of the activities. And for the coming time, abroad at least, yes, I have developed a new initiative. That's going to be a retreat in the Austrian Alps at the end of October, from the 27th until the, what is it? I don't know. Thursday, the 31st, it must be. And that's going to be really a Circle of Avalon retreat. So there's a daily program of Kabbalah, roundtable mythology, and also some teachings about the mystical teachings of Christ, the ASA included there. Yeah, I have to say it's a new initiative. It's in a private house in the mountains, and
really beautiful place.
It is. I know it very well. It's a family house, and the places are really limited because, well, we only have so many bedrooms and we have some place for teaching. So there's a maximum of 10 people, so very little. It's all on the website. If you want to know anything about it, have a look. You're very welcome to join. If you need more information, of course, let me know about it. And other activities are in Holland here, so some roundtable activity. And I haven't taken initiative because I just came 3 times out of the UK, but probably beginning of next year, I'll be traveling to Glastonbury and probably to the College of Psychic Studies, but I will let you know about it.
Yeah. Okay. So lots of things still coming along for Circle of Avalon, which is great. So if Synchronauts, if you can go and live it, experiencing it like directly with Mike there in the physical, you should definitely go do that. It's going to be awesome. And just a reminder, if you want to also participate in the Galactic Mayan readout for the next year, you can just connect remotely. You don't have to come to Mexico, so don't you worry about it. It's just remote for now. But well, I'm very happy to see that things are unfolding in very interesting ways. There is so much to learn and so much to share, and I'm very happy that we have this open space. And as I said, we would like to hear from you. What do you think? What are your experiences? How are you receiving what we are sharing? And also, if you have other topics related to Kabbalah or the Arthurian or whatever, even the Galactic Mayan, let us know. What would you like to know? And we're open to listening to your input. So thank you so much, dear Mike. Thank you, Synchronauts. And we'll meet, I don't know when, but we'll be coming back really soon. And in the meantime, we wish you have a great summer because it's summertime. Well, Northern Hemisphere. For people in the Southern Hemisphere, well, just cover up because it's getting chilly now. It's the winter over there. But just enjoy the season. Just connect with nature and make the best of these days.
Definitely. All
well,
right.
Thank you so much.
See you next time.
Bye.